Ladies and gentlemen, less than 48 hours ago, the altcoin market dropped downwards close to 20% in a matter of a day. This is a strong reminder that this market can flip on its head very quickly with very little warning. So it brings up big questions. Well, obviously, if you're going to avoid the market crashing on you while you're still holding your positions, you need to be able to know where the top is before the top is actually marked so you can get the hell out of the market before you get wrecked. Okay, that's the fundamental key point of bull markets, right? It's all well and good making money, but if you can't preserve the money and if the market drops afterwards, you're not going to actually sell for profit. You need to realize those gains. You need to know when the top is coming before it actually comes. And in this video, I'll be showing you how to do that. We have multiple Bitcoin charts here, multiple strategies for finding the top before it's actually in, and some strategies for confirming the top after a little bit of downside has occurred. Going from things like the Bitcoin dominance chart but date range trends within that, to date range trends within the 4-year cycle, to the Gaussian channel on the 5-day chart, the Gaussian channel on the weekly chart, and also an RSI trend on the monthly chart, which has marked pretty much every Bitcoin major top and major bottom, historically speaking. So we've got a few things to skim through here today. We'll also look into things that are a bit more speculative, like CBBI and the Bitcoin Power Law Index. All of these charts will give you a very good idea of what you need to be watching in order to confirm a Bitcoin top. And we'll also give you the reality, which is Bitcoin still has room to move. Okay, none of these indicators are triggering right now. Bitcoin still has room to move. That's great news, but we need to be paying attention to these very closely. And if we ignore these indicators when they start triggering, that's how you end up getting wrecked in your position. So ladies and gentlemen, I'll look into all these charts today. Before we get into it, go down to the comment section, leave a comment, say hello, chuck an emoji. It helps me out in the algorithm. Subscribe if you're interested. And also check out these two exchanges here. BitGet is a very reputable exchange, very high trading volume on BitGet. It's a very popular exchange. It's not available to the USA, but everyone else can sign up. If you want an exchange that is available to the USA and is global, non-KYC, you can choose Bitunix. Take your pick, right? I've chosen these exchanges very carefully. I reached out to them for partnership. They did not reach out to me. This is on my own accord that I'm advertising them. And with my referral links down below, you can pick these exchanges and get a 15% trading fee discount for the entire lifetime on the exchange. 15% off buys, 15% off sells with my referral links down below. Go ahead and sign up with those links. Ladies and gentlemen, let's get into it. Right, let's start with the most important stuff, and the stuff you've probably heard before. The 4-year cycle on Bitcoin, the ultimate trend on Bitcoin, the trend that encompasses all other trends. Without the 4-year cycle, there's nothing. Every single trend that you can identify in the cryptocurrency market has been structured and maintained within the bounds of the larger 4-year cycle. Without this, there is nothing. And quite simply put, there are 5 separate micro trends, or 6, I should say, within the 4-year cycle, all of which are date-based and all of which point to Bitcoin topping out in October 2025. Now, it's very hard to validate that. In foresight, we don't necessarily know if the 4-year cycle will play out perfectly, but what we do know is that every single cycle so far has played out perfectly within the 4-year cycle, and given the fact that the trend is your friend until it ends, we can assume cautiously but optimistically that the 4-year cycle will play out again. Therefore, if Bitcoin has not topped out by the time we reach November next year, we can start to expect it to top out quite soon, because that is when the 4-year cycle says we will top out. So that's the simple bread and butter. October 2025 is the date range trend. But obviously, if Bitcoin, hits every other indicator that suggests it's going to be topping out before we get to October 2025, then we can start looking elsewhere. But right now, the 4-year cycle is the king until proven otherwise. The 4-year cycle is also supported by Bitcoin dominance trends. Generally speaking, altcoin seasons last 320 days. If the altcoin season lasts 320 days once again, this time it will be ending in October 2025, which, guess what, is when the 4-year cycle predicts a top. So 4-year cycle says October 2025, but that's obviously a very surface level analysis. We need to look at other things, right? Because the 4-year cycle is not guaranteed to be correct. Is it likely to be correct? Historically speaking, yes, but it's not guaranteed to be correct. So what else can we look at, right? What else can we use to validate a top? If the top comes in before the 4-year cycle, how will we know? Well, we'll look at these charts here. So I introduce you to the Bitcoin monthly chart RSI, and as you can see, I've marked out green and red circles. The red circles indicate when Bitcoin hit the resistance line on the monthly chart RSI. The green circles indicate when Bitcoin hit the support line on the monthly chart RSI. And what you can see very simply is we have an RSI parallel channel formation marking major Bitcoin tops and bottoms. It's a very, very simple analysis, guys. When Bitcoin reaches that channel, parallel channel formation again, that is very likely to be the top. Okay, yes, it's not perfect, right? For example, we hit the top in August 2017, a few months before Bitcoin actually topped out properly, okay? But we did overshoot the top again in November, and that was a very clear mark of a top right there. Okay, yes, it's not perfect on the lows as well. We hit the bottom preemptively in June 2022, but for the most part, it's correct, and that's what matters. It will be exceptionally stupid not to at least get very cautious if we do reach the top of this parallel channel formation. If we break out above it, awesome, you can buy back. But for me personally, especially if it happens within the bounds of the 4-year cycle's prediction of October 2025, if we do come upwards and test resistance on this channel, that will be a place in which I'll be getting very, very cautious in my positions, setting stop losses, looking for structural breakdowns, and getting the hell out if those structural breakdowns occur. So this channel formation on the monthly chart RSI is going to be exceptionally useful, as it has been on every single cycle so far, both to the upside of a downside. Yes, it's not perfect, but it's pretty damn close to being perfect. Now, if you're not paying attention, you probably think I'm looking at the same chart. I'm not. This is the 2-week RSI chart. There is, just like the monthly chart RSI, conveniently, a descending resistance line, which has marked very, very major tops on Bitcoin, previously speaking. Not all of them bull run tops. Like, for example, it marked the top here in 2013. It marked the top here in 2011 before the cycle even started. It also, most notably, marked the top in February or March 2024, which is one of the only charts in the entire market to suggest that that was even a resistance zone at the time. Between that and the Powerlaw chart's green line, there was really nothing else saying 74K would be a top for 8 months on Bitcoin earlier this year, besides this 2-week chart RSI resistance line and the Powerlaw chart. So this is a very, very important resistance line as well. And just like on the monthly chart, if Bitcoin approaches this resistance level, that would be a place in which you'd be getting very, very cautious. Now, as this chart doesn't necessarily mark bull run tops perfectly, it wouldn't necessarily be a place in which you'd be saying, okay, the bull run top is certainly in, but it would be a place in which you could see a very extensive macro correction from, okay? So watching the 1 month chart watching the 1 month chart parallel channel formation and watching the 2-week chart RSI descending resistance line as a place in which major tops can be marked, and getting cautious if we do approach those levels. We're getting a little bit close here on the 2-week chart, but still plenty of room to move. Another way to try and mark the exact top would be the CBBI indicator. Now, this is getting a little bit speculative at this point. And after we look at this, we'll look into ways in which you can identify a structural macro breakdown, which is slightly different to marking the exact top, but still helpful in validating it. The CBBI indicator is an accumulation of basically various traditional ways of marking the Bitcoin top. We've got the Pi cycle top indicator, we've got the 2-year moving average, we've got the reserve risk ratio indicator, we've got the pure multiple, okay, just all things you've probably heard of before, a lot of them you've probably heard of before, and it basically all comes together with a number, and when this number gets closer to 100, it means we're closer to the peak, okay? And historically speaking, you can see on the chart right here, we've got the CBBI confidence ratio. As it climbs upwards towards 100, that means the peak is close to being in. And historically speaking, it's been relatively accurate. Okay, yes, in 2021, there was a false flag. We didn't really catch the second top in 2021 on CBBI, but it pretty much played out perfectly in 2017. It pretty much played out perfectly as well in 2013. And in all honesty, it wasn't that bad in 2021 because it played out and marked the first top of 2021. And 2021, of course, was a bit of an abnormal cycle. So a lot of indicators were wrong in 2021. Right now, we're at 82 on the CBBI confidence indicator. And if we get close to 100, again, that is a region in which you want to be getting very, very cautious, just like if we reach the peaks of those channel formations on the RSI. And those resistance lines on the RSI for the 2-week chart and the monthly chart. This would be another way to potentially mark the top before it's actually confirmed and validated. Now, How would you validate a top? So we've discussed how we can mark a top. We've discussed how we can identify a top. We've discussed when a top could be in via the 4-year cycle. But how do we validate a top? Because it's all well and good, the price reaching a certain level, you sell, and then you think it's going to go down, but it keeps going upwards. You need the actual confirmation of the structural breakdown in order to be confident that the bear market's actually begun. And a few ways we can get that, both of which, in my view, are coming best from the Gaussian channel. The Gaussian channel on the weekly chart, which is discussed many, many times by many, many people, but in my view, something a little bit more, even better and more accurate, and it's something that we can even try and validate the top higher, which is better, obviously, is the 5-day chart Gaussian channel. Now, I'll look into both of them quickly, but they both have the same conclusion, basically. What we see, just without all the nuance, without all the bullshit, okay, just keeping it nice and clean and simple here, is that when the price enters the Gaussian channel, it continues through the Gaussian channel in the direction through which it entered, okay? This is true on every single occurrence without fail on the weekly chart, right? We've got one time right here, we moved through the Gaussian channel, another one, we moved through the Gaussian channel, through again, through again, through again, okay, through again. It never fails. Every single time we enter the Gaussian channel on the weekly chart, we move through the Gaussian channel and either up past it or down below it without fail. Therefore, if Bitcoin was to enter the weekly chart Gaussian channel, we would move through it again. And if we moved through it from the upside, that would be a structural breakdown leading to a bear market. Quite simple. Where is the Gaussian channel right now? It's at 63,000, meaning if Bitcoin drops below 63,000, it's over. It's done. The bull market's done. Guess what? Exact same analysis can be done on the 5-day chart Gaussian channel, which again, without fail for the most part, okay, it is a little bit less reliable than the weekly chart, but for the most part without fail, if we enter this Gaussian channel, we move through it, okay? There's been, I think, one failure in the entire price history of Bitcoin in the 5-day chart. There's a little bit of chop going on, but for the most part, it's true. Let me be a bit more specific here on the 5-day chart. If we break below the center line, okay, we move through it. So on the weekly chart, Gaussian channel, if we enter it at all, we move through it. On the 5-day chart, if we break below the center line, we move through it. This is seen just recently, for example, where we held the center line for support right here. We held the center line for support right here, and we did not, in fact, move through it. So with the 5-day chart Gaussian channel, a little distinction there. If we move through the center line, it's very much over. Now, the 5-day chart Gaussian channel is sitting at around 59K, at the center line that is, and the weekly chart Gaussian channel again is sitting around 63K. So that entire price region is very clearly the major macro support for Bitcoin right now, between 59K and 63K. As long as Bitcoin maintains above that level, from an indicator perspective, we're in the clear, right? And these indicators are going to continue moving upwards, which means our breakdown point is going to get higher and higher and higher and closer and closer and closer, ideally, to the current price, meaning that we'll lose less and less and less money waiting for a validation of a breakdown, which is good news. And obviously, last but not least, we can just use basic 101 TA. Okay, indicators aside, how do we know when the top's in? A structural breakdown. How do we know when a structural breakdown occurs? All we need to do is look at the peak of the last macro structure and identify that as a support zone, identify that as a neckline. If we break below that peak, guess what? We're back below the resistance that formed as resistance for 8 months, and we're in a bear market. Simple as that. We break below the macro upwards trend, we enter a downwards trend, it's over. Very simply put. So that's at 74K. So realistically, there's a bunch of indicators we can look at. Some of them at 63, some of them at 59, one of them's at 74, and that's 101 TA. The good news about the other indicators, the Gaussian channel indicators, is they'll continue moving over time, so they're dynamic. This is a static indicator, and so then the Gaussian channel ones may not look useful because they're actually below this static zone, but they are going to be moving over time. They're going to get closer and closer to the current price. Hopefully that makes sense, guys. But the point I'm trying to make in this video is there's multiple ways to mark the Bitcoin top through mostly RSI structures and things like CVBI. And there's also multiple ways to validate a breakdown and get confirmation that a bear market has begun. But overall, at the moment, our bread and butter should be the 4-year cycle as a whole, okay? As long as the 4-year cycle is still playing out, which will be the case unless we get a breakdown validation, it is our bread and butter. It is the thing we're looking at predominantly. And right now that says the top will be in October 2025. That does not mean we ignore everything else. I've just spent a whole video discussing everything else. But this is the textbook 101 Bitcoin trend. It's all Bitcoin's ever really had. And if it breaks, it will be a bit of a catastrophe in the cryptocurrency market. So we'll have to wait and see if it plays out. It's hard to say it will. It's impossible really to say it will or not. But right now, that's what's playing out. The trend is your friend until it ends. So we'll wait and see. but we're also keeping an eye on these other indicators. You know, if Bitcoin does go upwards, if Bitcoin touches 100 on the CBBI, if Bitcoin reaches those RSI resistance zones, that's potentially a sign that maybe the 4-year cycle won't play out well this time. Maybe we have to look elsewhere, okay? And that's what this video has been dedicated to. So keep an eye on these charts. They're all very, very important. I'll be updating you regularly on them because they're very important, okay? I do not want to be caught out, neither does anyone, caught out holding bags during a bear market, and looking at these charts is the only way to really avoid that. So again, guys, check out the Bittunix and BitGet exchanges. As I mentioned before, Bittunix is global. It's non-KYC. You can sign up from anywhere in the world without linking your identity to the exchange. You can't go wrong with that, guys. And if you want a bigger exchange, BitGet is very big. It's not available to the USA, but everyone else can sign up to it. With my referral links down below, you get 15% trading fee discounts on these exchanges, as well as, you can see it right there, 5,500 USDT in a reward center on Bittunix, and on BitGet, you've got up to 6,000 in rewards, okay? So very good stuff with my referral links down below. Sign up, takes 15 seconds of your time. You're getting on a good exchange. You're helping me out. You're helping yourself out as well by getting on a good exchange. And let's check out one more thing here. It's the VIP group on Telegram. If you want access to altcoin trading signals, guess where you can get them? You can get them from me, for God's sake, and they're on Telegram right there. I've got a PDF of all the historical trading results, 78% win rate. Check it out if you're interested, guys. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Comment down below. Helps me out in the algorithm. I appreciate you guys, and I'll see you tomorrow.